I was a huge San Francisco 49ers fan, the rabid all-day tailgate in the parking lot type. My Sundays during football season revolved around the red and gold. I lived and breathed Niners football, and everyone who knew me understood this about my personality. A few years ago, something magical happened. We made it back to the Super Bowl. After years of waiting, watching, hoping, my team was finally going to play for the championship. I was working at a consulting firm at the time, handling a handful of accounts that I would interact with directly. The job was demanding but rewarding, and I'd built strong relationships with several clients. One client in particular knew exactly how big of a Niners fan I was. I was the day-to-day lead on his account, managing all the regular interactions and ensuring everything ran smoothly. Over time, we'd developed a genuine friendship that extended beyond our professional relationship. We often grabbed drinks or dinner after our meetings, talking about everything from business strategy to sports to our personal lives. He was a great guy, easy to work with, and someone I genuinely enjoyed spending time with. He appreciated the work I did for his company and made it clear that he valued our professional relationship. As the Super Bowl approached and it became clear the 49ers were going to be there, he told me he had access to a pair of extra company seats to the game. These weren't just any seats. They were incredible seats that his company had secured as part of their corporate partnership arrangements. As a thank you for all the work I'd done on his account, he wanted to give them to me as a gift. I was over the moon when he mentioned this possibility. However, because he wanted it to be a surprise, he passed the tickets over to the partner on that account to be given to me. This partner, who I will refer to as Dickhead Partner for reasons that will become abundantly clear, was supposed to handle the handoff. I never received any communication about tickets, any surprise announcement, nothing. I assumed my client's plan to get me seats had fallen through, which was disappointing but understandable. Super Bowl tickets were incredibly hard to come by. The game came and went. I watched it at home with friends, heartbroken as we lost. It sucked, but that's sports. You win some, you lose some. The next time my client and I met for our regular business meeting, we went to drinks afterward as we usually did. The conversation was flowing. We were discussing the game and various business matters when he suddenly mentioned something that stopped me cold. "Hey, by the way, why didn't you go to the game? I heard someone else was in your seats." I was completely confused. What was he talking about? I asked him what game he meant. He looked at me strangely and said, "The Super Bowl." I was still lost, so I answered honestly, "I didn't have seats to the Super Bowl?" The confusion on both our faces must have been comical, but for entirely different reasons. He told me that he'd given Dickhead Partner a pair of his company tickets specifically for me as a gift so I could attend the game. I had absolutely zero idea what he was talking about. This was the first I was hearing about any tickets intended for me. He looked shocked, his expression shifting from confusion to concern to something resembling anger. He told me to quietly ask around about it back at the office and get back to him. The rest of our drinks were awkward, both of us processing what this might mean. When I was back in the office the next week, I started asking careful questions. I didn't want to cause a scene without knowing the full story. Through one of the secretaries who handled a lot of the administrative work for the partners, I found out something that made my blood boil. Dickhead Partner had indeed received a pair of Super Bowl tickets. But instead of giving them to me as intended, he had given them to another one of his clients as a gift from our company. He'd literally taken a personal gift meant for me and regifted it to curry favor with someone else. I might have let this sort of thing go to keep the peace under different circumstances. Office politics could be tricky, and sometimes it was better to take the high road. But these weren't just any tickets. These were seats on the 30-yard line to see the 49ers play in the Super Bowl. This was potentially a once-in-a-lifetime experience that had been stolen from me. I was absolutely furious, but I needed to think strategically about how to handle this. I considered confronting Dickhead Partner myself, maybe demanding an explanation, or even threatening to go to the other partners. But then I realized something important. It was the client who had noticed I wasn't there in the first place. He was the one who'd given the tickets with the specific intention that I receive them. If I let him handle it, there would be no blowback on me. I wouldn't be the one making waves or causing problems. The client would be acting on his own behalf, defending his intention and his gift. So I texted him, keeping my message professional and factual. Hey, I just wanted to thank you so much for thinking of me with those seats. It appears that they were given to another one of our firm's clients. His response came back almost immediately. In all caps, he wrote, "Are you shitting me?" Then quickly followed with another message, "Pretend I never told you, let me handle." Over the next few days, he followed up with me about formulating a plan. This client was smart, strategic, and clearly just as angry about this situation as I was. He explained that he wanted to catch dickhead partner red-handed in a way that would be undeniable and professionally devastating. He asked me to trust him and play along with whatever happened at our next meeting. A few days later, we were asked to come down for a meeting at their office. The client specifically requested that the partner be present, which wasn't entirely unusual for important discussions or major project updates. Dickhead partner and I hopped on a flight the next week and headed over to their office. On the plane, Dickhead partner seemed relaxed, chatting casually about the account and various other business matters. He had no idea what was coming. Little did he know, my client had orchestrated a wonderfully awkward little show to catch him completely off guard. When we entered the conference room, all the usual suspects were there. The people we normally met with, familiar faces from various departments. But there was also a woman in her 30s we didn't recognize, sitting confidently at the table. My client immediately jumped into introductions with an enthusiasm that should have tipped Dickhead partner off, but he was oblivious. "Dickhead partner, this is Stephanie, VP from another department. She wanted to sit in on this meeting." Then he turned to me with a grin. "Hey, you guys must already know her from the Super Bowl." I had to fight to keep my face neutral. This was it. The trap was being set. Stephanie responded smoothly as she went to shake my hand, playing her role perfectly. "Oh, I don't think so. Did we meet there? I'm sorry if I forgot." My client pressed forward, feigning confusion. "Geez, Stephanie, how much did you have to drink? They were sitting right next to you." He looked at me, giving me my cue. I responded exactly as we'd planned. "Sorry, I wasn't there. Are you thinking of someone else?" At this point, I noticed Dickhead partner was starting to look visibly uncomfortable. You could see him processing what was happening, probably trying to come up with an excuse or figure out how this conversation had taken this particular turn. He started to say something, opening his mouth with an uncertain, but Stephanie spoke over him, continuing the performance flawlessly. "No, the people from that other company were in the other seats." She named the company, then added with perfectly executed confusion, "By the way, I was wondering why we gave company seats to those guys. Is there a project we're working with them on that I don't know about?" This was brilliant because obviously there wasn't. They were in completely different industries. It would be like Coca-Cola partnering with John Deere, completely nonsensical. Dickhead partner let out another uncertain, his face starting to flush. Before he could formulate a response, the client immediately spoke over him, his voice taking on a harder edge. "Dickhead partner, I gave you those tickets specifically for him." The client gestured toward me. At this point, Dickhead partner was turning bright red. The color started at his neck and crept up his face. He was trapped, and he knew it, but he tried anyway. Well, he wasn't able to make it, so he must have given the seats away to someone else?" He turned to me, his eyes almost pleading, clearly hoping I would back up his lie and cover for him. The client smirked at me, barely containing his satisfaction at how this was playing out. This was my moment. I looked at Dickhead partner with genuine confusion on my face and responded, What are you talking about? Client, you gave me tickets to the Super Bowl?" The client suddenly raised his voice, not quite yelling, but loud enough to make everyone uncomfortable. "Dickhead partner, those tickets were a personal thank you gift from me specifically to him. Did you give them away to someone else?" He paused for effect, letting the question hang in the air. Then added, "Was it another client?" Dickhead partner tried to interject, his voice desperate. "Oh, maybe something got mixed up in the office?" It was a weak excuse, and everyone in the room knew it. The client went quiet for what probably seemed like an eternity to dickhead partner. The silence was deafening, uncomfortable, thick with tension. Everyone at the table was watching, waiting to see what would happen next. Then the client looked down, grabbed his portfolio and iPad, and deliberately placed them into his briefcase with slow, measured movements. His voice was calm but final when he spoke. "I think this meeting is over." He turned to me, his tone warming considerably. "It seems as if I owe you a thank you gift. Let's go to lunch." Then he looked at Stephanie. "You're welcome to join." Finally, he addressed dickhead partner, and his voice turned ice cold. "Dickhead partner, I need to evaluate our relationship. Please go back home and expect to hear from us next week." Dickhead partner, desperate and probably panicking about losing a major client, suggested he would like to join us for lunch. He was presumably hoping to do damage control, to smooth things over, to salvage the situation somehow. But Stephanie, still playing her role perfectly, sternly told him, "I don't think that's a good idea." She then asked the front desk to see dickhead partner out of the building. As soon as he was in the elevator and the doors closed, we all broke out laughing hysterically. The tension that had filled the room evaporated instantly. Stephanie wasn't really a VP at all, just an employee at the company who my client had drafted into helping with his pre-planned meeting skit. But she had played her part brilliantly, and she did end up coming to lunch with us. It turned out she was a fellow Niners fan, and she was a total blast to hang out with. We spent lunch rehashing the meeting, laughing about dickhead partner's increasingly red face, discussing the game we'd lost, and bonding over our shared love of football. On our way to the restaurant, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from dickhead partner, and the desperation was palpable even through the screen. He said I needed to cover for the firm and that we could discuss things when I got back. He was clearly trying to enlist me in helping him clean up the mess he'd created. I showed the text to my client, and we both shook our heads. I replied carefully, "Yes, we need to talk, but I'll see what I can do." I wanted to leave him with some hope. Keep him on the hook while we figured out the next steps. My client told me to wait a couple hours before responding to dickhead partner again. He wanted to make him sweat, and he also wanted to craft the perfect set of demands. When enough time had passed, my client dictated exactly what I should communicate. First, dickhead partner should expect invoices for the resale value of the Super Bowl tickets. Resale was way above face value. We were talking over $10,000. Second, he should expect an invoice for our lunch. My client had deliberately picked a pricey spot and made a big show of ordering expensive items, running up a substantial bill. Third, he expected these invoices to be paid immediately, no delays or negotiations. Fourth, he expected me to be given a direct personal apology from dickhead partner. Fifth, he expected a written apology to his company for what he considered theft of company property. And finally, he would only interact with me or another one of our firm's partners moving forward, never dickhead partner again. I sent this list of demands to dickhead partner, keeping my tone professional but firm. His response was a mix of shock, anger, and continued desperation. He tried to negotiate to reduce the amounts, to claim the demands were unreasonable. But I held firm, telling him these weren't my demands, they were the client's. And if he wanted any chance of salvaging the relationship, he needed to comply. This whole situation caused a major stir with the other partners at the firm. Word spread quickly about what had happened. In the retelling, I actually came off looking great. It appeared that I had made a good faith effort to save the client for the firm, despite being the victim in this situation. I hadn't caused drama, hadn't made demands, hadn't threatened anyone. I'd simply been professional and tried to help resolve a situation that dickhead partner had created. The other partners were furious with him, not with me. The client ultimately agreed to continue working with our firm, but with conditions. He would transfer his account to another partner, which meant dickhead partner lost his profit share on any work with them. Given that this was a substantial account, this was a significant financial hit. It got better, though. The other partners in the firm, angry about the whole situation and the potential damage to the firm's reputation, made dickhead partner pay the invoices back out of his own salary. Over $10,000 for the tickets, plus the expensive lunch, plus various other costs. It came out of his pocket, not the firm's. He had to write personal checks to make this right. I watched as he signed them, his hand shaking slightly, his face a mask of barely controlled rage. But there was nothing he could do. He'd been caught red-handed, and the consequences were unavoidable. In retrospect, I really had no idea what the hell the guy had been thinking. Did he seriously believe the client would just not notice me, not thanking him for Super Bowl tickets? Did he think I would never find out? Did he assume the client wouldn't care? The arrogance and stupidity of it all was staggering. Maybe he thought because he was a partner and I was lower in the hierarchy, he could get away with it. Maybe he thought the client wouldn't make waves because maintaining the business relationship was more important. Whatever his reasoning, it had backfired spectacularly. The aftermath of this situation was complicated. On one hand, I'd won. I'd gotten justice, dickhead partner had been humiliated and punished, and I'd come out looking professional and loyal to the firm. On the other hand, the well was kind of poisoned for me there long term. Dickhead partner wasn't going anywhere. He was still a partner, still had influence, and now he absolutely hated me. I could feel his resentment every time we passed in the hallways. Meetings where we both had to be present were tense and uncomfortable. While the other partners respected how I'd handled the situation, there was an underlying current of unease. I'd been involved in taking down one of their own, even if he deserved it. Office politics are complicated, and alliances shift. I realized that despite coming out on top in this particular battle, my long-term future at this firm was limited. I started quietly looking for other opportunities, updating my resume, reaching out to contacts in the industry. A few months later, I found a much better position at a competing firm. Better salary, better title, better growth opportunities, and most importantly, no dickhead partner. I gave my notice, and while some people seemed genuinely sad to see me go, others seemed relieved. It was probably easier for everyone once I was gone, and the reminder of the whole ticket scandal wasn't walking around the office every day. My client was disappointed I was leaving, but understood. We'd become genuine friends through this whole experience, bonded by the shared mission of taking down dickhead partner. He told me that he was going to give my old firm 1 year to prove they could handle his account with the new partner. But he wasn't optimistic. True to his word, almost exactly 1 year later, he terminated their relationship with that firm. The new partner just didn't have the same rapport, didn't understand his business the way I had, didn't anticipate his needs or provide the level of service he expected. He took his business to a competing firm, and as fate would have it, he ended up working with a good friend of mine. My friend would occasionally give me updates, telling me the client always spoke highly of me and how I'd handled the situation. It was gratifying to know that even though I'd moved on, my reputation in the industry remained strong. Dickhead partner, on the other hand, never really recovered from the incident. Word spread in our relatively small consulting world about what he'd done. Other clients started questioning whether they could trust him. Some of them transferred to other partners within the firm. His book of business shrank considerably over the following year. The other partners, while they couldn't fire him due to the partnership structure, made it clear he was on thin ice. His profit share continued to decline as he lost clients and failed to bring in new business. I heard through the grapevine that he'd become increasingly bitter and isolated at the firm. The ticket theft had defined him in everyone's mind, overshadowing whatever good work he might have done previously. It was a cautionary tale about greed, arrogance, and the importance of basic decency. Even years later, I was still angry about missing the Super Bowl. The 49ers had lost that game, which softened the blow slightly. At least, I didn't miss watching them win a pay championship in person. But it was still an experience I should have had. A memory I should have been able to hold on to. Sitting on the 30-yard line, surrounded by the energy of the crowd, watching my team play for the championship, that's something you can't recreate or replace. Every football season, when the playoffs started and there was a chance the 49ers might make it back to the Super Bowl, I would think about those stolen tickets. I would think about dickhead partner's red face in that conference room, about my client's brilliant setup, about the satisfaction of watching consequences unfold in real time. But I would also think about what could have been, about the experience that was taken from me. The money dickhead partner had to pay back didn't give me those seats back. His humiliation didn't let me attend the game. Justice had been served. But the thing I actually wanted, the chance to see my team play in the Super Bowl, was gone forever. That particular Super Bowl would never happen again. I held on to hope that the 49ers would make it back, that I'd get another chance. I told myself that when they did, I'd find a way to go, no matter what it cost or what I had to do to get tickets. The whole experience taught me valuable lessons about workplace dynamics, about trust, and about standing up for yourself. I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation or aggression. It's strategic planning and letting someone's own actions destroy them. I learned the importance of building genuine relationships with clients, relationships that go beyond just the business transaction. My friendship with that client had been the key to everything. If we just had a standard professional relationship, he might not have cared enough to orchestrate that elaborate confrontation. He might have just written off the tickets and moved on. But because we were friends, because he valued me as a person and not just as a service provider, he'd gone to bat for me. I learned that documentation and witnesses matter. If it had been just my word against dickhead partners, the situation would have been much more difficult. But with the client as a witness, with Stephanie playing her role, with the secretary confirming the tickets had been redirected, there was no room for dickhead partner to deny or spin what had happened. I also learned about the importance of playing the long game. My initial instinct had been to confront dickhead partner immediately, to call him out, to demand answers. But by taking a step back, by involving the client, by planning the confrontation carefully, the outcome was far more satisfying and far more permanent. If I'd just yelled at dickhead partner in the office, he probably would have denied everything, made up some excuse, maybe even turned it around on me somehow. Instead, he'd been trapped in front of witnesses, forced to lie badly, and ultimately held accountable by people who had the power to make it hurt. The financial penalties, the loss of clients, the damaged reputation, these were consequences that mattered. Looking back, I could see how every decision I made after discovering the theft had led to the optimal outcome. Texting the client instead of confronting the partner. Agreeing to play along with whatever plan he devised. Maintaining my professionalism throughout. Presenting myself as someone trying to save the client relationship rather than seeking revenge. These choices had protected me while still achieving justice. At my new firm, I was much more careful about office politics and partnership dynamics. I built strong relationships with clients, but I also made sure to document everything, to copy the right people on emails, to create paper trails. I never wanted to be in a position where someone could steal from me or undermine me without consequences. I also became known as someone who treated clients exceptionally well, who built loyal relationships, who could be trusted. My reputation in the industry grew, and I like to think that the ticket scandal, while painful, had ultimately helped shape me into a better consultant. My client and I remained friends long after the professional relationship ended. We still grabbed drinks occasionally, still talked about football, still laughed about the look on dickhead partner's face when he realized he'd been caught. He told me it was one of his favorite professional moments, that he'd never enjoyed a business meeting more than watching that trap close. He said the only thing he regretted was that I never got to actually use those tickets. I told him that the revenge had been almost as satisfying as attending the game would have been. Almost, but not quite. I was still pissed about missing the Super Bowl, about losing that once-in-a-lifetime experience. But I'd gained something else. A great story, a powerful lesson, and the satisfaction of knowing that bad behavior had been punished thoroughly. Years later, I was still hoping the 49ers would make it back to the Super Bowl so I could finally attend one in person. Every season brought new hope, new possibilities, and when they did make it back, I'd be there, one way or another. I'd buy tickets myself if I had to spend whatever it cost, cash in every favor I had. Because that experience had been stolen from me once, and I was determined not to let it slip away again. In the meantime, I had my memories of dickhead partners' humiliation, of the perfect execution of my client's plan, of justice served cold in a conference room. It wasn't quite the same as watching my team play for a championship from the 30-yard line, but it was something. And sometimes in this life, you have to take satisfaction where you can find it. Go Niners.